You don't want to go in there all by yourself, do you?
C.s.w. presents Incarnation Red.
Episode 18, Casino, Part 1. I don't know why I picked this city. It was close, but not too close. Not so close that I couldn't run away to it. So I drove, picked the first hotel I saw, as tall and skyscraping as all the other ones in this city. In any case, the cityscape view at night is a pretty sight from a 14th-story window. Little scraps of light spread across a vat of nighttime like diamonds and tar. None too close to the other, or else their distinct glows would just congeal into one light, indistinct. They'd become one isolated nova of two lights polluting one another, ruining one another. Guess that's why the lights are spread so wide, so far apart. It's funny. You'd think their light would be brighter together. I thought so too. Not that it matters. They all look congealed together to me by the end of the night, after I break open the minibar and let sleep find me slowly. From the floor, I don't even have the ability to distinguish city lights from stars from the bulb on the ceiling of my room. In the morning I want to die, but no more than normal. There comes a certain point when that particular capacity of the human mind maxes out, and maybe I'm just curious to see what happens once that limit is exceeded. Do you die right there? Sheer desire manifesting itself by its own will? And if so, why would that be the only desire that can self-actualize? Why not other desires, like the desire to live, the desire to survive, or the desire for the woman you love more than anything at all, the woman you married with the full intent of remaining that way forever, to stay with you? Because I'm not sure if it's that or death that I desire more right now. Not that either one will happen. I've already signed the papers, and I didn't rent an extravagantly expensive hotel room to kill myself in it. No. On the contrary, I rented this room to live, to coast my way through whatever comes next in this life. Because it's not like I have any clue at all what follows this. Even if I did, it's not like foresight would help me. I wasn't able to save my marriage, though I had all the knowledge in the world of what needed fixing, what needed preventing, and all that knowledge totaled out at a blind nil. Now the only thing I know is that whatever does come next, it's not up to me. Whatever comes next is not my decision. Of all aspects, moving practically independent of one another through the mess that is my life, my will is the least significant. I just have to be here, to witness, to engage just to the extent of existing, and let chance do the rest of the work. Because trust me, it will. Chance has more power than anything else you'll find out there. The fact that the existence of our entire universe is almost solely attributable to chance. What's more powerful than that? Chance created everything. Chance moves everything. Chance, not me, was the force moving all the strings puppeteering my dying marriage. Chance is God. So, as one does with any god, I come to bow at its feet, to worship and house its spirit inside me. I revere it, fear it, humble myself before it because I know it could end my life without so much as a flinch. Hell, it practically already has. But eventually the minibar is empty again. So I pull myself out of bed, make myself look semi-human, and head down to the lobby. The concierge seems somewhat taken aback, which gives me some clue as to my appearance. I haven't exactly been looking in the mirror lately. I ask her where the nearest liquor store is, and she obliges. I head toward the front door of the hotel, but then I hear something. A bright sound. A colorful sound. A sound I recognize, and yet lands on my ears in a different way than before. It's a casino. Inside the hotel, past the hotel lobby, somewhat sequestered. That must be why I didn't hear it until now. I turn around at the front door, peer toward where the noise is coming from. I walk forward, across the lobby, turn the corner. And it's there. And it's not anything new. I mean, I have been to casinos before, though I never really gambled at any of them. But something about the lights, the sounds and voices is resonating in a different key, speaking in a different tongue. My eyes scroll across the glittering panorama, trying to find any one aspect that might be making the difference. The manic velocity of the spinning slots, the artificial graphics of the cartoon coins on screen. As my view progresses from one end of the casino to the other, it terminates at the wall closest to me, where a long bar is stationed. Guess I won't be needing the liquor store after all. I walk down the length of the bar, look for an opening in the crowded stools. One stool sits open between two people conversing in opposite directions. I squeeze my way onto it, catch a bartender's eye, and order a vodka soda. It's ready sooner than I expect. Eventually, another drink, and I stand up with it, without really knowing why. The world is soaring past me in shades, shapes that are only vague, and somewhere between the textures whirring past me and my equilibrium trying to follow them, the world comes to a slow stability. And all the shapes slipping around in my eyes come together and form a roulette table. The dealer looks at me inquiringly. I stare at the wheel, at the colors. Red and black. 2 pockets of green, spaced parallel from one another, like 2 eyes in the wheel. Like 2 green eyes all too familiar. Like 2 green eyes staring at me. I decline, and turn back toward the bar. I finish the rest of my drink in a gulp, then pay the tab and head upstairs to my room. I don't know if it's a pillow or the floor that finds my face, but it's definitely sleep that finds me first. I open my eyes, and I'm there. In the casino, I mean. I rub my face, press my eyes sleepily. I must have passed out at the bar, collapsed, awoken after closing time. This must be the case. The casino's now completely empty. Except for him. There's a man standing in front of me. A dealer. And he is looking at me. He is smiling at me. Smiling with both rows of teeth. His lips are spread so far open I can see his gums, and his eyes scream so widely at me that it looks as if he has no eyelids at all. He just sits, smiles, and stares. I stare back. He's not moving, really, or breathing, just smiling. Without actually moving his eyeballs, he turns to his left, my right. And from that direction, I begin to hear something. Something like the clanking of chains and suffocated breath. I turn and there are other men bringing something forth, something large. I guess it was the floor that found me. I awake with my drool-stained face splattered against the carpet. It's been a while since I've had a drunken fever dream. That sure as hell didn't occur at the actual hotel casino. In the dream, my vision was far from being as blurred and drunken as it was there, and I felt perfectly balanced. No, everything just felt distant, half buried in fugue, real only at a disconnect. As it always is with dreams. I stand up slowly, letting my furious blood rage up through my head and back into my beleaguered limbs. I strip my clothes off, vomit, then hop into the shower. I've got to put myself together now, so I have something to tear apart tonight. It's about 6 in the afternoon before my body can handle any more alcohol, and I don't waste any time getting my head start. A quick trip to the store yields me 2 bottles of wine, which I drink in their entirety by the time 8 p.m. rolls around. Then, after a quick indulgence from the newly refreshed minibar, I make myself something like presentable and into the elevator. Down to the hotel lobby. Down the hall. And into the light. Lights, sounds, flashes, voices between cheers and rage. The cacophony of a whole spectrum of opposites colliding into a glittering golden implosion. And it all welcomes me. I fetch a vodka soda from the bar, make my way over to exchange for chips. My steps feel stumbled as I walk, collapsing beneath the weight of booze, but watching my legs, I see myself moving steadily. And no one seems to notice it if I am walking unstably, or at least they're also too drunk to tell. Just as drunk as I am. Just as random as I am. It's all just the universe in one room. Random particles colliding and scattering everywhere. And we are those particles. God knows what we produce. I see the roulette wheel, and it sees me, the same green eyes from the last night looking back at me. But this time, I meet them. The dealer's taking bets. I get his attention. Put 200 on red. He waves his hand broadly. No one else speaks. The wheel spins. The ball clunks down into the wheel. Wavers, finds its trajectory. Descends. Into a red slot. 16. The dealer moves the chips, transfers me back 200. I didn't expect that. Not really. The dealer succinctly distributes chips across the table, and before I know it, it's going again. With more muscle than mind, I put 200 on black, then hesitate, put 100 more on. The hand waves. The wheel spins. The ball rolls into a black slot. I'm dealt the chips. I watch it all in a sort of trance, and it's starting again, and I attempt to put 300 on red again, but it's all somewhat blurry, and I can't quite hear what they're saying or what I'm saying, and between fuzzy after images I find I've placed 350 on the center column. I blink a little, stunned. He waves his hand, and my mouth is more numb than I thought it was, and the wheel is spinning already, and the ball slowing faster than I thought possible, falling into 17 black. I fix my eyes on the board. It's in my column. It goes on like this a while. A few more spins, a few more wins, then my drink is empty. I collect my chips, rise from the table, maneuver back to the bar, tell the bartender I'm ready for round 2. He asks me if I mean round 3. I just chuckle a bit and walk back off. Head toward the blackjack table. It's just me, 2 others, and the dealer. After a game already played is swept away, the 2 players on my right begin bets. The first bet's 20, the second 50. I match at 50. Another round is dealt with alacrity, giving me a 3 and a king. The man on the far side of the table considers his cards, frowns, then, as if shaking off something, hits. The card is dealt, and he busts immediately. The second player hits as well, then stares at his cards for even longer. I watch his pale blue eyes, so needle-like, so discerning. They zero in on those 3 little cards, those white rectangles with certain colors of ink shaping out certain arbitrary emblems, and ponder what fates those little white squares decide. What powers they control behind their chromatic benignity. He hits and busts. He rises from the table in frustration, shaking his head. He walks away, melts back into the aura of the casino. The dealer looks at me. For a moment, I am absent. I hit. He deals me a 5. I swallow a grin and stand. He reveals his hand, an 18 in total. He offers up to me my chips. Like a servant. Another few hands, another few wins, another few drinks. And like the booze sliding inside of me, the night just slips away, gone in an instant, vanished as quick as the roll of dice. And it's the floor for me again. But oh, it's just so comfortable. I open my eyes, and I am there. In I look around me. I'm at the casino, but it's not the same. There's something different, something wrong. I can't put my finger on what it is. I'm where the slot machines are, between rows and rows of them. I'm staring at the fluorescent screen of one of them. Somewhat instinctively, I reach for the handle. It's coming from behind me. Close behind me. I turn. A man is behind me, but he is not standing. No, he is suspended, restrained, locked into some kind of metal full-body trap, hanging by chains from the ceiling. The skeletal frame is black. Its edges are sharp and rusted. And each limb of the brace, adhering to arm, forearm, thigh, shin, spine, and head, bears curled combs of metal, like the poised claws of some million-fingered animal, clasped tightly over its designated limb like the jaws of 8 flytraps. And these jaws hold him, statuesque, in the most agonizing position I can imagine. Legs bent just barely against the joint, left arm raised and forced back against the elbow. The pair of clasps holding the head in place bear 2 long claws, restraining the man's mouth, gagging him. Blood drips down the sides of his lips. The only part of him with any freedom to move at all is his right forearm. Someone touches my shoulder. I turn, and I see a face that is familiar, but that shouldn't be, or that I wish weren't. It's the dealer, the one who smiled at me with no eyelids to be seen, and he is flashing that same grin at me now, as he guides me with a hand that is too cold for me to even feel, away from the slot machine, while the chains carrying the trapped man puppet him lazily toward the slots. The dealer guides me a few feet away, then turns back toward the other man, pupils unmoving. The man's right forearm gropes, tries to grasp with difficulty as the chains waver him dizzily, but he eventually finds the lever. Grasping it tremulously, his fingers pulsate, linger for a moment. Then he pulls it. The slots spin. They whir in their columns. One by one, they come to a stop. A cherry, a bell, and a 7. Then silence. Then, with the same nonchalance marking their entire existence, the chains rise, pull him up into a ceiling that I've only just noticed I can't quite see. And another pair of chains lowers down someone else. This man is in the same brace, a different stance that looks similarly painful. He descends to where the first originally was, then is dangled lackadaisically forward to the machine. With a free right forearm, he pulls the lever. The slots spin. They whir cyclically. They roll like maddened eyes in sockets. Then they stop. 3 cherries. I hear rusted metal scraping. The metal clasps close over him completely, slicing into every part of him they held captive, turning what was flesh into a mess of blood and muscle and bone. I see his rib cage caved in and turned outward. I see his jaw sliced entirely from his head. It hangs, the teeth on its upper side sitting uselessly beneath the lolling tongue. I don't realize that I'm vomiting until my face feels the carpet. That mad patterned and schizophrenic carpet. Its patterns looking more and more like eyes, or hands, or sharp, sharp teeth. As if the casino itself were just waiting to close its mouth over me. Like I can feel its teeth in the skin of my cheek, like tiny barbs of wire. So I stand up, stagger away from the patterns, away from the soaking corpse, towards the only other place I can remember. The blackjack table. A dealer stands there, grinning as always, but I collapse into one of the empty chairs, burying my face in my hand, and heave. I won't look up. I won't look up to see what horror has joined me. But if I don't, how likely is it that I will be the next? If I don't prepare myself for what this casino has to offer, what the hell are my chances then? So I lower my hand, raise my head, and this time I see a familiar face. It's the man from the blackjack table. The other blackjack table. And yet, simultaneously, the very blackjack table I sit at right now, but he's not sitting. And he's not quite standing either. His body, almost every portion of it, is chained from several different directions. Chains drawn tight from the dark regions of the room, shadows beyond view, all constraining his body into a stance that is all too immediately recognizable. It is the stance of a jack. He faces to his left, toward me, head pulled sharply to one side. His right arm is chained straight down at his side, only the hand free, hovering just above the table. And his left arm is lifted, pulled close to his body as well, and in its hand, a sickle. A sickle whose blade loops away from him in a crescent, and that crescent circles back to point directly into his left eye. Its point wavers less than a millimeter from his pin-sized pupil. His pupil is discerning as ever, studying the death poised just a hair's width away from it. Like there's something to understand. A slap on the table beside me. I turn, and the dealer has dealt the man 2 cards, 3 and a 6. But the chains holding his face remain taut. There's no way he can see the cards. And yet his right hand, trembling in its solitary mobility, slaps the table with as much momentum as it is allowed. The dealer immediately deals him another card, a 10. With his right hand, he gestures to stand. The dealer reveals his hand. 2 10s. One of the chains, the chain adhering to his left forearm, is pulled like a puppet. He inserts the sickle into his eye, piercing the center of the iris and filling the socket with a long gush of red. The chain does not loosen, instead leaves the blade buried in the man's eye, but the man doesn't scream. He won't scream. And already the dealer has cleared the cards away, dealing the man a 5 and 3 immediately. The man hits, receives a jack. He stands. The dealer reveals his cards, a 2 and a 7. The chain opposite the one that moved previously is pulled, and the sickle is removed. A torrent of red spills down the front of the man, down the chains, down the clothing or skin or whatever lies beneath them, over and into his lips that remain still pressed together, refusing to scream. The dealer dispenses another game, and I stare into the man's one-eyed face, the stolid labor of his still scrupulous eye, tears and blood mingling in a rivulet beneath it. And I wonder for a horrid moment what it's trying to prove, what it sees to gain. because I can see in its unstinting gaze that it refuses to give in. Refuses to let the world it is tasked with seeing be defined in this way. As this carnival of probabilities, this trial based entirely on one's ability to have the right luck, to stumble the correct pace in the right random direction, to live a continually shifting nonsense till their life resembles that of a human. It declines to let the rest of its life rely on odds, to let its survival be exclusively contingent on likelihoods. And for all its work, all its perpetual striving, even in these moments mere seconds before a certain death, amount to just the pull of a lever, the spin of a wheel, the roll of dice, setting the stage for chance in its almighty, immortal idiocy to decide everything else. It will not live in such a world as this. I turn away from the eye to glance at the table. The man has been dealt a jack and a king. The chains pull like marionette strings, and the sickle shifts, flips the blade to meet the man's right side, impaling, pulling, dragging across the flesh of his abdomen, letting the organs and blood and self bust from the man's body. And only then does he finally scream. And that's when I wake up. Incarnation Red is created, written, narrated, and edited by c.s.w. The opening theme was written and performed by Annika Hansen. All music and sound effects used in this podcast are created in-house from scratch. For more information and updates, join our Facebook group Friends of Incarnation Red or follow our Facebook page, Incarnation Red, as always READ. For more information than that, you can follow me on Twitter at CSW_horror or visit my website, cswhorror.com. For behind-the-scenes looks and other scary content, you can follow me on TikTok or you can follow me on Instagram at Incarnation Red. Thank you for listening.